Is time real? Some time ago, a mysterious man appeared in Ukraine who claimed to have made the impossible possible. He had blown up the fabric of space and time and traveled into the future. But that's not all. The stranger was even able to produce a series of documents and photos to back up his incredible story. But how is this even possible? Did the man really manage to unhinge the laws of time and catch a glimpse of the future? And above all, what shocking events should we prepare ourselves for in the coming decades? In 2006, the inhabitants of Kiev were astonished. Out of nowhere, a strangely old-fashioned man appeared in the city, carrying a no less outdated camera. The visibly confused stranger approached the police and asked for directions. But he wanted to go to a street that no longer existed. The officers asked the strange man to identify himself, and they couldn't believe their eyes when he pulled out a Soviet document from the 1950s. It said that his name was Sergei Ponomarenko and that he was born in 1932. According to his own statements, however, he was only 25 years old, a claim that matched his appearance. In order to clarify the background of the confusing situation, the police took Sergei to the police station for further questioning. Soon afterwards, a photography expert was also called in to develop the long outdated camera film. But then something happened that nobody had expected. The finished pictures showed Kiev as it looked in the 1950s. Sergei was also in some of the photos, wearing the same clothes that the police had picked him up in. In some of these photos, he posed with a young woman whom he described as his fiancée. But that wasn't all. The pictures also included a snapshot of a UFO that Sergei claimed had flown past a building. Things became even more puzzling when the authorities went through the missing persons reports. In fact, they included a certain Sergei Ponomarenko, who had disappeared in 1958. The woman in the photos could also be traced. The lady, who is now 70, confirmed that her fiancé had suddenly disappeared from the scene in the late 1950s. However, he is said to have reappeared around 2 years later. Ultimately, the woman was to add another confusing piece of the puzzle to the mystery. She possessed a photo that allegedly dated back to the year 2050. It showed a much older Sergei standing in front of a futuristic-looking Kiev skyline. To top off the fantastic story, Sergei is said to have literally vanished into thin air before he could be interviewed again. It appeared that the self-proclaimed time traveler left the room in the facility even though the door was firmly locked. What remains is a modern myth that divides the public into two camps: those who think Sergei Ponomarenko is an outright fraud, and those who actually believe his claims. The doubters point out that the developed photos are strikingly reminiscent of some images shown in an episode of the Ukrainian TV show Aliens. But what do you think? Could it be that the mysterious man has actually traveled through time? Or did he just spin an elaborate backstory to get his 15 minutes in the spotlight? This time traveler became a multimillionaire and disappeared without a trace. What would you do if you could travel back in time? If you had knowledge that your fellow human beings didn't have, would you capitalize on your knowledge advantage? For example, by picking the correct lottery numbers, or by investing in the stocks that will yield the greatest profit. In March 2003, a certain Andrew Carlson was arrested by the Securities and Exchange Commission for insider trading. Previously, the suspect had successfully traded 126 high-risk stocks and turned an investment of $800 into over $350 million in just 2 weeks. The investigators could only explain this astonishing windfall in one way. Carlson had used secret insider information for his profitable stock market transactions and thus made himself liable to prosecution. However, the accused vehemently denied this accusation, and yet he made no secret of the fact that he knew exactly which investments would yield the most money. And for a very simple reason: he was a time traveler from the year 2256, and he had teleported himself back to the year 2003 to see if he can make a quick buck on the stock market. Carlson would not reveal where his alleged time machine was located, but he offered to disclose certain information if the SEC would leave him alone. This included the cure for AIDS and the whereabouts of Osama bin Laden. But the officials simply couldn't believe the fabulous time travel story. Strangely, however, no records could be found to prove the existence of Andrew Carlson before 2002. The millionaire stockbroker was allegedly indicted, but he mysteriously disappeared shortly before the trial date. Since then, he has never been heard from again. Perhaps he has traveled back to the future. Artificial intelligence will destroy humanity. The rapid development of AI is currently being observed with great concern, and by no means just by outsiders, but especially by those in charge. In an open letter, Elon Musk and over 1,000 tech giants insisted that work on artificial intelligence must be curbed and regulated at all costs. Otherwise, humanity would slide into an uncertain future. An uncertain future that an anonymous man from Siberia claims to have already seen with his own eyes. He claimed he worked in a physics laboratory where he built a time machine together with another scientist. He tested the machine and found himself in the year 4040, and thus, in an era where half the world's population was dead. Billions of people had fallen victim to the rule of the robots. However, the foundation for the destruction had already been laid in the year 2458, when humans came into contact with aliens from another galaxy. The exotic visitors lived significantly longer than the inhabitants of Earth, on average between 400 and 450 years. However, the aliens had just been through a devastating war, which had decimated their numbers to 200,000. After the alien arrival on Earth, humanity initially seemed to be heading for a prosperous future. Medical care improved drastically, and humans lived up to 200 years. In the year 3213, intergalactic cooperation then produced a giant computer half the size of Europa and fueled an artificial intelligence. But at the same time, the monster computer outstripped its creators and turned the robots against humans and the aliens. The war broke out and raged for 800 years, and in the end, the machines prevailed. Unsurprisingly, the unnamed time traveler ended his story with an urgent warning about the dangers of artificial intelligence, because it was only a matter of time before such a catastrophe befell our timeline. This is what it feels like to travel through time. Albanian Bella claims to have traveled to the year 3800 and that she can even prove her time travel. All you need to do is take a look at the selfie she took in the future. Bella also claims to have unhinged the laws of time with the help of a physicist named Alexander Kozlov. But the process of time travel is nowhere near as spectacular as it is presented in Back to the Future and the like. Because as the centuries pass, everything around you goes pitch black. At the same time, very high voltages flow through your own body. We don't know whether Bella knows the story of the self-proclaimed time traveler from Siberia. What is certain, however, is that it paints a similarly frightening picture of the future. No matter where she looked in the 39th century, there was rubble everywhere, destroyed robots, and dead people. Bella even claims to have encountered one of the killer robots at close range. The android was huge, could talk, and also had amazing facial expressions. The robot asked Bella where she came from, but the shock had left her speechless. Now, it is in the nature of things that not everyone is convinced by Bella's story. Although she claimed to have taken several photos in the future, she only presented one as supposed proof. There is no question that futuristic-looking buildings can be seen in the background of this picture. And yet it seems more than questionable to many. Because although a fierce war between humans and machines was raging around her, Bella somehow managed to keep her lipstick perfectly applied. When a time traveler looks too deeply into the glass. Imagine saving humanity from a devastating alien invasion, but the internet only makes fun of you later as a crazed drunk. In 2017, the police in Casper, Wyoming received a call about a drunk man staggering through the streets, bawling loudly. This turned out to be Bryant Johnson, and he claimed to be a time traveler from the year 2048. He explained that he had been sent to our time as part of a top-secret mission to warn us of an impending alien attack in 2018. He had originally intended to travel to the year of the invasion, but those damn aliens had bottled him up, so he accidentally ended up in the wrong year. Bryant insisted on speaking to the president of the city, who didn't even exist, in order to take the next steps. Malicious tongues would say that Bryant made up his story while intoxicated to avoid being charged with public intoxication. But although his eyes were bloodshot and he slurred his words more than he spoke, one thing is certain: the aliens did not attack us in 2018, so Bryant has successfully completed his mission and saved us from doom. And before you raise your glass to toast our savior, hit the subscribe button and never miss a new video again.